throughout the nation and around the globe. From his heart to yours, it's Dear James Live, bringing you intuitive insight, answers, and advice to your life questions.
Hello, beautiful soul family, and welcome to Weekly Wisdom and Insights, your home for spiritually guided transformation and empowerment. I am your host, Dearjames, and together with the unseen, Spirit, Source, and Symphony, we look at the current energies, the intuitive wisdom and insights, and we go as guided. And we conclude Season 4 of Weekly Wisdom and Insights with some pretty heavy-hitting energies. And so here we are. We're going to jump right in and see what's taking place. So let's look at the main energies. We're looking at 11, it's peace, relax. 12, stand still, release. It's a 9-year, all year long, so small restraints, surrender. They culminate in the 23 and the 14, which is split apart, regenerate, or great possessing shine. And the number 5, nourished while waiting, patience. We're really looking at 11 and 12, but we're also going to be looking at number 43. And so, more so, let's look at the two astrological charts that we are dealing with. We are working with the Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. That occurred on the 11th of November. So it's going retrograde in Cancer. And this is a beautiful, harmonious. Jupiter in Cancer is exalted, meaning it loves its home and its space. And so there's a beauty in that, in these energies and so forth. So Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, we're working with that, but we're also then, what a difference a day makes. And you'll see here in a second, this Mercury conjunct Mars the next day on the 12th in Sagittarius. And when you look at this chart, you'll see how Mercury conjunct Mars in Sagittarius, the two are at 6 degrees Sagittarius. They are directly opposite Uranus. So they're opposing Uranus. And you'll also see there's the moon on the left there in the inner circle. You'll see the moon to the left. It's squaring Uranus while also squaring Mars and Mercury that are conjunct. So there's some pretty extraordinary, or as the unseen called it, and this is with our astrological influences, pardon me, this is from this week, here we are, unprecedented. What a difference a day makes. So the energies of this Mars and Mercury conjunct, opposing Uranus, squaring the moon, and the moon squaring Uranus, it's unprecedented what a difference a day makes. It's about these energies because, again, the Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, its energy is a diamond in the rough. But then we go to the next day, and it's literally with Mercury conjunct Mars, opposite Uranus, squaring the moon. It's this unprecedented what a difference a day makes. And remember, last week, our astrological influences were the walls are caving in, crashing, closing in. So we have these really unprecedented energies that are occurring, that are culminating, that are closing out 2025, a 9-year. It's closing out Season 4 of Weekly Wisdom and Insights and preparing us for Season 5 and for 2026, which is a 10-year, which is a new beginning. It's a 1 year. And so as we look at this, and I'm going to go back to this chart really quickly again, this Mars and conjunct Mercury. It's to know that there is some serious, you heard it in my voice, there's some serious action going on. I mean, Jupiter is opposing Pluto, Uranus is opposing Mercury and Mars. The moon is squaring, as I said, Uranus and Mercury and Mars and so forth. There's a square between the lot of fortune and Pluto. there's a lot in this chart, in these energies, that is speaking to the decline and the collapse of the old, and how unprecedented it is. And it's not to say that this is not bad. This is good, because there's also all of these beautiful, again, from the day before, Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, there are these beautiful harmonious aspects going on. There's a kite formation, there's the grand water trine, there's a lot that's happening, and it's all happening for us. However, we're looking at this from the state of how one is ending, one is beginning. So 2025 ending, 2026 beginning. Season 4 ending, season 5 beginning. The divine masculine, in essence, the patriarchal rule collapsing, the divine feminine matriarchal rule rising, beginning. And so it is to remember, as we often say, we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We want and need healthy ego, mind, personalities, and a human. We need them in concert with, working with one another, so that as we go through this, we'll see the deliverance of it, the manifestations of it, and how when we are individually in harmony, yin yang, in balance, divine masculine, feminine, when those are in harmony and balance, there's greatness, there's divinity, there is purity and harmony and balance. When they're not, there isn't. And it brings me to our main theme. Our main theme this week is progress. There's more than meets the eye. And this phrase, there's more than meets the eye, a situation is more complex or has hidden aspects that are not immediately obvious. So there's an aspect here of the fact that what the unseen is saying to us is, there's progress, there's tremendous progress. And there's more than meets the eye in terms of progress, and there's more than meets the eye in terms of what's actually occurring, what's going on behind the scenes, these types of things, and how that is playing out. And so let's see how it's playing out. Let's take a look. Because number 2 from the unseen is, foundations crumble or get rebuilt depending on who you are. Meaning, because these are fated events, they're fated occurrences, they're fated opportunities. So foundations crumble or get rebuilt depending on who you are. That depending on who you are means, where are you in terms of the choices you're making in life? Who are you in terms of which train are you on? And if you don't know which train you're on, go back and watch many of the episodes in the Weekly Wisdom and Insights, seasons 1 through 4. And we talk a lot about being on the right train, the train that's leaving the station, not the train that's coming in and ending. And so it comes down to the choices. So if your choices are in alignment with forward movement, with the Aquarian age, the divine feminine, the matriarchal, which is the harmony and the balance of the two, your foundations are going to be rebuilt or strengthened. And if you are clinging and cleaving to the past and, trying to prevent time from moving forward and all of that, and being in the shadow elements, the wrong train, the train that ends, your foundations are going to crumble. It's the law of the universe. It's physics. The arc of destiny moves forward. So we have unprecedented, what a difference a day makes. And this can mean over these next, it's not just yesterday and today. These energies arc out, they play out. Whenever you come upon this particular episode, it will be timely for you. It will speak to you. And that's true of all of the episodes. So there's going to be, within a day, there'll be unprecedented, what a difference a day makes, activities or changes in our lives, individual lives, and again, the collective. It's about progress. There's more than meets the eye. So there's a lot more going on. And there's a lot more progress going on than meets the eye. There's a lot that's happening right now behind the scenes. The moon squaring Uranus, the moon squaring Mercury and Mars. So our voice, how we take action, the higher mind, the expect the unexpected, and the moon, the divine feminine, and how she reveals. And so she can conceal, but she also reveals. And so all of this is taking place. Well, let's take a quick look, and just before we jump into that, our mantra is, I am. So keep that I am is such a powerful, powerful, powerful mantra. You can add anything to it. I am joy. I am healed. I am happy. However, the foundation of I am, it means that you are one with Source. You are one with your soul source connection. And that will right you, correct you in any given moment. It will inspire you. It will ground you. It will nourish you. So our mantra is I am. And our key word is optimism. And I love this image. It's a play on Icarus. And pardon me. And this beautiful statement, keyword optimism. It's about hopefulness and confidence about the future or the successful outcome of something. The quality of being full of hope and emphasizing the good parts of a situation, or a belief that something good will happen. The attitude or mindset of expecting events to lead to particularly positive, favorable, desirable, and hopeful outcomes. It literally means hopefulness. So optimism is hopefulness. We have great reason. There's progress. There's more than meets the eye. There's unprecedented energies and activities. What a difference a day makes. There's hope for this conclusion, this 9-year concluding, and the 10-year that begins. All the major outer planets moving, shifting into their new signs that will happen by early 2026. Some are changing at the end of 2025, and then they'll January, and I believe April is the latest, the shifts, or March of 2026. They're all going to shift. We're going to be fully footed, standing firm in the new. And it's to remember the foundations crumble or get rebuilt depending on who you are. Who you are meaning what train you're on. I'm just hammering that home so that, where are you in alignment or out of alignment with these energies, with yourself. So now let's take a look at, I want to begin with astrologer Chani Nicholas. And this is the weekly issue number 91. And she says, if there is one good omen in the skies of 2025, it is without a doubt Jupiter in Cancer. Known as the greater benefic, Jupiter is exalted in this sign, which means that faith is restored and hope has a fighting chance. Not because Jupiter is a fairy godmother granting any wish we have, although it often looks that way from the outside, but because it signals a time when our hard work actually amounts to something, fueling more growth, optimism, and expansion. 9th century Persian astrologer Abu Mashar said that Jupiter in Cancer is a time of justice and truth, when corruption is exposed and there is a rise of the righteous against kings and the emergence of a powerful and commanding ruler. What strikes me most about it is that Cancer is ruled by the moon, and the moon is our closest planetary body, a local influence, if you will. It represents the people. Anything good that happens in Cancer, and Jupiter is the best thing to happen there, is good for local life, communities, common people. Jupiter grows, and the moon is local. So Jupiter in the moon sign signals our collective tidal waves of influence. The good of 2025 comes when we tap into local power. Luck comes when we organize against all odds and show up for the world we know is possible, especially when one when everyone is powerful, especially when everyone in power tells us it isn't possible. Abundance is to be found when we are shoulder to shoulder with the people who are ready, willing, and able to be in the trenches with us. And the year is not over. Better yet, Jupiter is in Cancer until June of 2026. There is so much to build from here, and we get to build it knowing that collectivism can and will win. So this is huge, that Jupiter in Cancer is so auspicious. And yes, it's retrograding in Cancer, which means we're going to look inward at this time to fine-tune and hone and polish our stone, and to see how we bring about greater internal abundance, because joy and optimism and hope, determination, because it brings about breakthroughs. And so in this time and in this period where Jupiter is in Cancer, and through 2026, that early part of 2026, we're going to have this fairy godmother, if you will, energy raining beautiful, beautiful, beautiful gifts and blessings down. We need to be in alignment to receive them, and we need to be in reciprocity with one another to share them, to magnify and amplify them. So this is a beautiful message from astrologer Chani Nicholas, the weekly number 91. Now I want to move to our hexagram 43. This is just going to set the stage, because these energies, as above, so below, the astrological energies, it's all about optimism, breakthrough, determination. Hexagram 43, and this is from divination.com, is determination. Some resolution is pointing to a breakthrough, but decisive action will be necessary. If you diligently hold your ground, or when you diligently hold your ground, warding off negative tendencies or bad influences, goodness will indeed prevail. So this is when you diligently hold your ground, warding off negative tendencies or bad influences, goodness will indeed prevail. The persistence of negativity is a factor in human affairs. Just when you think an undesirable element has been uprooted, it or another will pop up again, sprouting through some crack in the pavement of decent society. And these elements need not take extravagant forms, such as those exhibited in violent conflict. Garden variety lies and deceit are more common and persistent, but should also be rooted out diligently. Be resolute against the forces of negativity, whether in your social or professional life, or in your own soul. But certain rules must be followed for your efforts to be successful. So this is about being resolute against forces of negativity, whether it's social, professional, within your own soul, and yet certain rules must be followed for our efforts to succeed, to be successful. And this brings us to our first quote, and I love these. These are 3 rules that go along with hexagram 43 determination. The first rule: never compromise with corruption. Misdeeds and shameful actions must be identified for what they are and quickly discredited. So this is about never compromise with corruption. And we see this a lot, where, we negotiate and, we barter and so forth, or we think that we can overcome corruption. Those who lie with dogs get fleas. It's that, that old saying, that idiom. This is about never compromise with corruption. The second rule, quote, is you cannot successfully resist or defeat negativity on its own terms. Positive alternatives, which lead away from the nature of the problem, are more appropriate than trying to counter corruption with raw power. This is about where we place our energy and our focus. See, it's about you cannot successfully resist or defeat negativity on its own terms. Positive alternatives, which lead away from the nature of the problem are more appropriate than trying to counter corruption with raw power. It's like two wrongs don't make a right. And it's about finding where we place our energy and our focus. Focus it on what you want, not what you don't want. Because otherwise your energy and your focus is on that negative, the negativity in its own terms. But when we look at what we don't like and we say, what's its alternative? What do I want? And we shift ourselves to that energy and we place our time and our effort, our money, our voices, everything in what we do want. It's what we're for, not what we're against. Well, that pivots, that second rule of you cannot, let me just bring it back up, you cannot successfully resist or defeat negativity on its own terms. And notice you see in all three of these quotes and the images, there's a crystal ball, which is a symbol of your intuition, your knowing, your gut, your soul source connection. And yet you'll see all this beautiful imagery of water or the sky or nature or the sun, life force. It's about connecting to a higher octave, to your soul source connection, to find and navigate your way through this determination, these three rules. And the third and final rule of determination is the means used to counter negativity need to be consistent with the result you want to achieve. You cannot stop the spreading of lies by spreading more of them. So this is a powerful one, this third rule. The means used to counter negativity need to be consistent with the result you want to achieve. See, this is all about where do I place my focus, my energy, the purity of my intentions? Because you cannot stop the spreading of lies by spreading more lies. That's just doubling down. That's two wrongs don't make a right. So there's a beautiful message here on hexagram 43, determination. We're determined to get to the new, to this new beginning, to the other side of the previous era and all of the goo that we, through choices, 8.4 billion souls, and all who have come before us, there's a shadow aspect. There's a culmination of the goo, of the patriarchal, divine masculine, Piscean era that we're all responsible for. It doesn't matter your gender, doesn't matter your religion, your faith, your economic position, any of these things. That's irrelevant. What we are faced with is the shadow aspect of these choices and how we transmute them. Because in the new, in the Aquarian matriarchal, we the people, divine feminine era of this harmony and balance and equality, purity, justice, purity, truth, they don't belong. They don't go with us. And so we must do what we are meant to do, capable of doing, that we choose to do to empty our vessels and purify ourselves for the new. And these beautiful three rules that go with them. And lastly, from divination.com, hexagram 43, by adding to the positive elements in a situation, you automatically diminish the bad. This is the only way to tip the scales and effectively neutralize negativity over time. The reminder here is for you to maintain a consistent level of self-awareness while sharing your advantages and virtue with others. This is about staying connected, making positive, proactive, pure intention choices. That's what's so important at this moment. It's true all day long, every day in our lives. It's especially true as we transition from a 9-year to a 10-year, endings, beginnings, Piscean, Aquarian, that we make these shifts and that we close out this moment in the most pure manner possible, and to keep our focus on the pure, on what's before us. It's The unseen is reminding me of the story of Sarah. I believe it's Sarah and Lot, where she turns to the divine says, "Don't look back," and she does, and she turns to a pillar of salt, and yet the others go on. The children and her husband Lot go on. It's about not looking back. It's looking forward and allowing the rest to fall away. So now let's take a look, and this is Gene Key 43, and this is from Richard Rudd with the Gene Keys. And so Gene Key 43, so hexagram 43, Gene Key 43. Gene Key 43 is about deafness, insight, epiphany. And so again, unprecedented, there's progress, what a difference a day makes, how foundations can either crumble or be rebuilt. So things can happen instantaneously. Gene Key 43 is the key of breakthrough and insight. Be open this week. The Gene Key is weekly, but again, these energies arc out. So be open to mysterious processes moving through your psyche. Who knows what epiphanies may emerge? You can be I literally just had a client yesterday, and the unseen was showing me how you could be in line at the grocery store. You could be bending over, pulling the laundry out of the dryer. You can be washing dishes. Epiphanies, insights, that will be revelatory, that will advance you in ways, progress. There's more than meets the eye. There are things that are going on behind the scenes. And so Richard Rudd, 64 ways. We don't waste energy being someone we're not. We don't follow someone else's purpose. True insight makes life simpler, not more complex. It's funny that the more evolved we become, the simpler we make our lives. It seems to be a mystical equation. But see, this is where purity, truth, the truth speaks for itself. The truth becomes a part of your past. A lie, your future. Look how much energy it takes when we're inauthentic, when we're lying. How complex our lives are, or how complex governments, institutions, businesses. When people are being shady, in the shadow, illicit, look how much energy that takes. Look how complex. And yet, true insight makes life simpler, not more complex. It's funny that the more evolved we become, the simpler we make our lives. Beautiful quote and statement from Richard Rudd, Gene Keys, and from 64 Ways. So that's setting the tone of this optimism, breakthroughs, determination. Now let's move into the astrology and the diamond in the rough and, the unprecedented, what a difference a day makes. There's a lot of activity and energy going on here. So we're going to move to both Astrology by Lauren and Pam Youngin's North Point Journal. All of these, Channy Nicholas, Pam Youngin's, Astrology by Lauren, all wonderful astrologers. So, and again, we're talking about Mercury and Jupiter retrograde, Uranus returning to Taurus, big energies, big final moments and moves. So here we are. We're going to start with Astrology by Lauren and Mercury retrograde. And she begins with a quote by Soren Kierkegaard. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. This is about hindsight. This is about how, again, we don't always know. We can't always see down and around the corner. And so we listen to our soul source connection, our intuition, our God positioning satellite, that GPS that keeps us true north. And it means that once we know where to go, we know what to do, and when we listen and we follow it, we arrive. And it's only in hindsight that we can look back and go, That's why I knew to or not to do something. And in totality, I'm able, in hindsight, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. This quote by Soren Kierkegaard. It makes sense. So, astrology by Lauren, Mercury retrograde. On November 9th, Mercury stationed retrograde at 6 degrees Sagittarius, beginning its retrograde phase, which will last through November 29th. This is a shorter, as we talked about last week, it's a shorter Mercury retrograde, more intense Mercury retrograde. So it's going to be from the 9th to the 29th of November 2025. Mercury will return to Scorpio on November 18th for its own unfinished business, opposing, it's going to be opposite Uranus on the 19th as it does so. After it stations direct on the 29th, it's going to move forward. It will make one last final pass opposing Uranus on December 10th, just before it returns to Sagittarius on December 11th. So Mercury's in Sagittarius, it's retrograding, then it's going to leave Sagittarius, go into Scorpio, then it's going to station direct and go back through end of Scorpio and back into Sagittarius. All in 20 days. These are transits of sudden illumination. See, we're talking about the epiphanies, the breakthroughs. So these are transits of sudden illumination, sudden realizations, sudden changes, sudden shifts in our lives. Mercury is conjunct Mars as it stations. People are pissed. You can see it on the world stage. Things will be said that will later be regretted. Foot and mouth disease prevails when Mercury is conjunct Mars in Sagittarius. And this is where I was showing you in this astrological chart. You see Mars and Mercury conjunct 6 degrees Sagittarius, directly opposite Uranus. Higher mind, expect the unexpected. They're squaring the moon that reveals, the divine feminine, the moon reveals. It's local, it's personal. This can be quite unprecedented, quite shocking. So be proactive, not reactive. Take a beat, take a breath. Because as Astrology by Lauren is saying, people are pissed. Things will be said that will later be regretted. Foot and mouth disease prevails when Mercury is conjunct Mars in Sagittarius. The acronym THINK can be useful for these transits, especially in light of the retrograde station. So she has T. Is what you are about to say true? H. Is it helpful? I. Is it inspiring? N. Is it necessary? K. Is it kind? So we're talking about, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? All of those things are positive energies, attributes, actions. And this is what we're talking about. Divine feminine, matriarchal, Aquarian, we the people. These are the energies. It's true, it's helpful, it's inspiring, it's necessary, it's kind. If it's not those things, it doesn't belong in the new. And the further and the faster you move to that direction, the more aligned you are, the better off life's going to be, and the foundations are going to be your foundations are going to be rebuilt, because these are fated events, occurrences, and opportunities. Astrology by Lauren continues. These retrograde phases of Mercury are so necessary for our mental health and well-being. This is when we process and assimilate all that we have heard, seen, and witnessed in the previous months. The oppositions to Uranus are also giving us an opportunity to internally process any changes that have already occurred in our lives, changes that are occurring now, and those that we are planning to make in the coming months. Be open to possibility, but don't necessarily commit if you can help it. We are given permission to change our minds, and will probably do so more than once. So during this Mercury retrograde, this is about looking at everything, being aware, being prepared, being proactive. It's just not necessarily about pulling the trigger unless you absolutely have to. And there's an exception to the rule with Mercury retrograde. If it's something that you've already been involved in. A person, a place, a thing. It's a continuation of something, someone. Then the rules don't necessarily apply because it is a continuation. It's someone you already know and have been involved with. It's something. It's already an engagement, a contract, whatever it may be. You still want to be very mindful, but there's an exception to the rule. Exception française, as they say. So Astrology by Lauren. Sometimes we need to take a few steps back to connect with the original intention, to get motivated, to be able to move forward in the future. By the time Jupiter stations on the 11th of November, stations retrograde, we will have 5 planets in their retrograde phases. If you've been procrastinating, know that the retrograde allows us to fine-tune our plans. There is no rush, no matter what Mars in Sagittarius is telling you. Timing is everything, and so is taking our time. So this is about divine time, divine inspiration, divine words, divine mentality, divine intentions, the purity of them all. Just before the Mercury station retrograde, the Sun makes an exact trine, that's a harmonious aspect, to the true node, that's the north node of the Moon, which leans into the idea of getting our lives back on track with our destiny. It may feel like you are backtracking, but it's about connecting with what is right for you. Slowing down, reflecting, and introspection can be a blessing. Reflecting on what once was. This is when we process, assimilate, and take essence of what once was and allow it to be a part of our vision for the future. It was never lost. The lessons, the accomplishments, and the failures, all of it. Everything's purposeful. Nothing's lost. We're not late. We're right on time. And so it's just, it's to take that beat so that we don't have foot in mouth, disease or moments, so that when we take these steps, it will be in divine time, divine order. It will be in the purity of the alignment of our present future selves, where we're moving to and forward and moving away from. What are you going to be taking with you going forward? So while these planets are in retrograde, and we've talked a lot about this, in the new, the world before us, the one that came before us and the one that's before us, in this higher octave of ourselves, in the divine, feminine, matriarchal, Aquarian, we the people era and age, what is it that we'll be taking with us? What will we be doing? Because again, the shadow elements and aspects of the past are collapsing. Those foundations are collapsing. Those dogs don't hunt in the new. It is like 2 different operating systems, 2 different languages. And so we want to be ready and prepared so that we hit the ground running, and we do so. You see a smile on my face. You hit the ground running with optimism and purity and possibility, for these, with determination, these breakthrough moments that land us exactly where we want to be. This is from Pam Youngin's North Point Journal, and she's speaking about Mercury and Mars, that conjunction. So Mercury will conjoin Mars in Sagittarius this week, an alignment that usually represents a green light for assertively expressing one's ideas, making courageous decisions, or taking action on plans. However, the messenger planet, Mercury, is now retrograde. So this influence is best used to review our plans and come up with new insights rather than taking concrete action. Mercury is the planet of communication, while Mars is highly energized and sometimes forceful. As these 2 planets align in Sagittarius, people may be especially forthright and courageous in speaking their truth. That's a beautiful thing. There's nothing wrong with that. We want that. We just want it in alignment with the purity of intentions and the purity of the present future, moving forward. Not an attempt in a shadow illicit way of trying to prevent or manipulate a past energy. Intense debates are possible, especially regarding beliefs and morals. In the negative, Some could be irritable, argumentative, or hurtful in their words. With the nervous system being highly stimulated, some may feel an urgent need to make a decision. However, decisions made hastily while Mercury is retrograde often need to be rescinded later. When Mercury is retrograde, and if it doesn't meet the exception that I spoke about earlier, guaranteed. What you think you're getting, what you think you're purchasing, the contracts, all of these different things, the agreements, they will change inevitably. They may be rescinded. They will, change or dramatically change, or things will have been omitted or left out, or what you think is in there isn't in there. So it is to be mindful during Mercury retrograde, and it's an intense one, so be extra mindful. Again, Pam Youngin's North Point Journal. Mercury and Mars usually conjoin once a year. However, because of Mercury going retrograde, this week's conjunction is the second of 3 alignments between the 2 planets within 4 months. This rare recurrence of their alignment in such a short period draws a connecting line between the dates October 19th, November 12th, and January 17, 2026. So you can see that there's a rare reoccurrence because of Mercury's retrograde, where Mars and Mercury are going to conjunct 3 times in a 4-month window, which doesn't usually happen. It's more rare. So now let's take a look at, let's look at this, because this is about, number 3 from the unseen is, I heard 2 different songs. The first one is Please Remember. It's a song by Leanne Rimes, so it's Please Remember Me. And this speaks to what things are leaving us, what things are collapsing, what things are going away, so that the new may present itself. So there's that beautiful aspect, and it's to remember that even in the harshest of circumstances, in universal law, everything is divine, everything is neutral, everything is purposeful. And so it's to please remember me. And then the next was from the Marvelettes, and we've had this before, and it's Please Mr. Postman. And with these 2, it's a statement from the unseen about loss versus gain, or gain versus loss, depending, foundations are crumbling or getting rebuilt, depending on who you are, depending on these fated events, occurrences, and opportunities. So we have Please Remember Me, Please Remember, or Please Mr. Postman. And then it spoke of, and we have had this before as well, but this beautiful 8 of Wands energy. And I'm going to come back to Astrology by Lauren and Pam Youngin's North Point Journal, but I just want to go to the 8 of Wands, and this is from Light Seers Tarot. And the 8 of Wands, it's go time. I fall into the flow of this quickening, because the energies are quickening. And the 8 of Wands, it's light speed. 8 wands hurtle through the air, hurtle their way through the universe, through the air, gathering the momentum and the energy that they need as they go. What started out as 1 wand quickly became 2 and 3, until all of the wands had joined the flight in quick succession. They're in a rush because there's still so much that they need to convey and so many experiences to bring forth. They draw inspiration from the galaxies and star clusters that they dart past. Star after star, their energies collide and merge, and they move faster and faster until the velocity causes their tips to ignite. They become, wands represent fire energy. They push ahead because they want to arrive before they burn out. Friction, they blow past it. Hurdles, barriers, gone. They have such great news to deliver and so much traveling to do. And in the blink of an eye, they have passed by, leaving only the change that they came to enact and their echoed sentiment of go. That is also this number 5, which denotes change from the unseen. It's time. Looks like we made it. The sun will come out tomorrow. It's this trifecta effect that we've spoken about. So it's time, it's go time, the 8 of Wands. Looks like we made it. The sun will come out tomorrow, with this Please Remember or Please Mr. Postman. and this fire energy of the Eight of Wands, which is about fast-moving energy, communication, correspondence, epiphanies, awakenings, all of this transpiring and taking place. And as I said, we're concluding season 4 of Weekly Wisdom and Insights as we begin season 5 next week. Well, we're doing it with a bang. I mean, these energies are intense. The Mercury retrograde's intense. Mercury with Mars conjunct in Sagittarius, opposite Uranus and squaring the moon, intense. So we have a lot of intense energies going on. I hope you get this. It's intense. All right, so we're back to Astrology by Lauren and Pam Youngin's North Point Journal. Pam is speaking about Jupiter stations retrograde in Cancer. North Point Journal. The very good news is that Jupiter is within 8 arc minutes of being exactly trine, that's a harmonious aspect. So it's exactly trine Saturn in compassionate Pisces this week. This harmonious aspect assists us in bringing our ideals into reality and in successfully taking advantage of opportunities that arise. So to see, this isn't about do nothing. It's about do everything with a higher octave of consciousness and awareness, preparedness, be ready, proactiveness, and purity. And thereby, as these energies, these very intense and powerful energies of endings and beginnings are carrying us forward, delivering us, we're ready. We're taking advantage of them. We're in the flow with them. So it makes these things taking advantage of opportunities that arise. It can also help us channel the desire to preserve and protect in practical ways. As it comes to a standstill, that's Jupiter, on the 11th, 11/11, which was yesterday, Jupiter will align with the powerful fixed star Alpha Canis Minoris, thus amplifying that star's energies. Now, we were just talking about how the Eight of Wands is going by the planets and so forth, picking up their energies, adding to ignite the tips of their wands, fire energy, creative force. And here, when Jupiter stations retrograde, it's going to be aligned with the powerful fixed star Alpha Canis Minoris, thus amplifying that star's energies. Astrologer Roderick Kidston, in his book The Magic of the Stars, writes, quote, "The enormous energy of Alpha Canis Minoris can express itself skillfully as courage, daring, and executive capacity, or unskillfully as overestimation, carelessness, rashness, and aggression. Those who can harness the drives of this star with discipline and strategy can go very far with it. Those who allow their emotions to run riot, especially in anger, can lose out big time. Like so many of the power stars, it's all a matter of how you handle the energy. This is a star which is likely to take you places. Whether those places are high or low will depend on how you respond to and use its laser-like force." So here's Pam Youngins with North Point Journal speaking about Alpha Canis Minoris and astrologer Roderick Kidston's interpretation. This is what we're speaking about. This foundations are crumbling or getting rebuilt depending on who you are, which trainer you on, how are you harnessing and utilizing these energies? Are you doing it with masterful skill and conscious awareness, or hubris and running roughshod and overestimation and carelessness? They're fated. What's occurring is fated. So how it impacts us individually and collectively is going to play out. So Pam Youngin's North Point Journal, it is striking to note that when Saturn, and Saturn's the great teacher, when Saturn stations direct on November 27th, which is coming up in a couple weeks, it will be synchronistically at the exact degree of Jupiter's retrograde station, at 25 degrees of 9 arc minutes, although in Pisces instead of Cancer. So Jupiter is stationing retrograde at 25 degrees, 9 arc minutes in Cancer. Saturn will go direct at 25 degrees, 9 arc minutes in Pisces. This leads us to regard these two dates, November 11th and November 27th, as being connected in a positive way. So we see there are 3 dates with Mercury and Mars that are connected. We have these 2 events between Jupiter in Cancer and Saturn in Pisces connected. You see the connection, the masterful, the master weaver, the host, the unseen, masterfully weaving and unfurling and unfolding these events for us. For us. Be in alignment with the unfolding. Be in alignment with your future, your present future self, your soul self, this next octave of being, so that you receive it and you're in the flow and you're one with it effortlessly, instead of fighting it or cleaving and clinging to the past. You're missing out. That train stops. It doesn't go anywhere. It's over. But the new one, that's a whole new world. That's a whole new way of being. So now back Astrology by Lauren on Jupiter stationing in Cancer, stationing retrograde in Cancer. So Astrology by Lauren. And she begins with a quote by Barack Obama. Hope is the belief that destiny will not be written for us, but by us. By the men and women who are not content to settle for the world as it is, who have the courage to remake the world as it should be. I would say as it can be, as it is in the new. So Astrology by Lauren. On Tuesday, 11/11, Jupiter stations for its 4-month retrograde phase, which ends on March 11th, 2026. So it's going to be from 11/11/2025 to 3/11/2026. Every time Jupiter stations, it does so with a trine, that harmonious aspect, to the sun, our life force, instilling hope and promise for the future. And it does so despite it entering its retrograde phase. It may seem that opportunities withdraw or that momentum stalls when Jupiter stations, but that's only because there are certain things that need to get done before we can proceed. See, before we get into the whole new of everything, we got to we got to finish up loose ends. We got to tie up loose ends. We got to empty our vessels. We got to, hone and polish our stones. We got spring cleaning. We need to be proactive in the purging and the releasing of the old, of the past. And it can be as simple as that. Closets, drawers, things in our home. What are we ready, willing, and able to let go of? What do we know that we need to let go of? And do so. We can donate, we can sell, we can discard. There's so many things that can happen during this period that ready us, prepare us for these beautiful opportunities that are in the present future, that are before us. Continuing with Astrology by Lauren. Jupiter stations for its retrograde phase at 25 degrees Cancer, 9 arc minutes. Simultaneously, Saturn makes its direct station on November 27th, 28th, ending its retrograde phase at 25 degrees Pisces, 9 arc minutes, what we were just speaking about. As a result, for the whole month of November, Jupiter and Saturn will be exactly trine. That means they're working together for us. We will speak to this, so Astrology by Lauren will speak to this next week, when both Sun and Mercury create a grand trine. That's a beautiful grand trine. It's a triangle with the 2 giants. But know that this is our cue to create some sort of plan. Jupiter has the big vision, the hope for a better future. And however, it is Saturn that gives us the willingness to put in the hard work to make that vision a closer reality. So this is about participating. It's not that we just sit back and wait for things to happen. We got to be in the game. We got to walk the walk, talk the talk, be proactive, be in an alignment with these energies. Astrology by Lauren. As with all planets, when they enter their retrograde phases, the focus is turned within. And as Jupiter's focus is withdrawn from the outer world, it can feel as if opportunities are temporarily put on hold. But the promise and hope are still there. However, within us, that is where the real work happens. Jupiter retrograde phases are really good for achieving some sort of inner understanding, wisdom, and knowledge about us and the world that we live in. Therefore, it is a good time to reevaluate one's core beliefs and look for ways to become better informed, better versions of ourselves. So it's about becoming better informed and better versions of ourselves. Internally, Jupiter's focus is on things like ethics, morals, and beliefs. Not unusual for us to focus on the immoral or outrageous behaviors of others as it approaches its station. However, these retrograde periods are not so much about the judgment of others, so much as whether or not we are honestly living up to our own moral standards and conduct. This is what we were talking about in the beginning with the 3 rules. Where do we place our energy and our focus? Place it on the positive so that we're not looking at the immoral and and so forth. Yes, we witness it, we see it, but then we pivot to what we want the world to be, what we want ourselves to be, and who we are in the present moment. And are we honestly living up to our own moral standards and conduct? Astrology by Lauren continues. Therefore, these 4-month annual journeys with retrograde Jupiter are essential for our own spiritual and moral growth. The desire for truth and understanding is an intrinsic quality of Jupiter. There may be some winding roads to travel before we arrive, but the journey to understanding is as important as the destination. And so we can learn at these times through exploration, by asking questions, through discourse. And as we ever strive to be more ethical, kinder, and better versions of ourselves, we not only change ourselves, but also the world we live in. So you see how all of this is percolating and culminating. It's time. Looks like we made it. The sun will come out tomorrow. And it's because, number 6 from the unseen, these energies, this 11-11 to 11-12, Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, and then the Mars-Mercury conjunction that's occurring, it's like a jump in time, is what the unseen said. Magnetic forces merge and align. There's progress. There's more than meets the eye. There's more going on than meets the eye. And then they talked about starseed magic and awakening. And I want to come back to, I'll come back to Astrology by Lauren. But starseed magic refers to the perceived spiritual and psychic abilities of starseeds, individuals believed to have extraterrestrial, otherworldly origins. We all do. And the practices associated with awakening these powers, such as meditation, visualization, and affirmations. I am. It's our mantra. This concept is rooted in New Age beliefs where starseeds are seen as souls sent to Earth on a mission to raise humanity's consciousness and are often described as being highly psychic, empathic, and intuitive. The magic is the manifestation of these innate abilities and a sense of cosmic purpose. So, starseeds are thought to possess abilities like telepathy, clairvoyance, and strong intuition, which are considered part of their innate magic. There's a core belief that starseeds have a deep connection to the cosmos, the unseen, what lies beyond, which they can harness through spiritual practices like meditation, astral projection, and visualization to tap into universal energies. There's a purpose and mission. The magic is also tied to their perceived mission on Earth, which is to help uplift humanity, heal others, and bring about a new era of higher consciousness. We've been talking a lot. We're going back to where we began, but an octave higher, the world before us. So this helping uplift humanity, heal others, healing humanity, and bring about a new era of higher consciousness. The journey to access these abilities is called the Starseed Awakening, which can be initiated by synchronicities or a spiritual mentor and involves practices to unlock wisdom and connect with one's true self. We've talked about what I term the God DNA. Scientists have called it dark DNA or junk DNA, this awakening, this unlocking of the wisdom. And so, a jump in time. this unprecedented, what a difference a day makes. There's progress. There's a lot of progress. There's more than meets the eye. So there's this, and it's time. Looks like we made it. The sun will come out tomorrow. And number 4, before I conclude with astrology by Lauren and Uranus, number 4, which is foundational. And this goes to the epitome of what we're talking about. And they said, toxic masculinity, a crushing blow, -defeat. Healed and restored, we begin anew. So what we are doing is the unseen is dealing a crushing blow and a crushing defeat to the goo, to the toxic masculinity. That toxic masculinity is the goo. It's the shadow aspect of all of our combined choices. Does not matter. Again, gender does not matter. We all have divine masculine, divine feminine. We are reckoning and reconciling the shadow aspects of the Piscean, patriarchal, divine masculine era. We have all contributed, many a soul, not just the 8.4 billion on the planet, but all who have come before us in this 2,000 plus year period. And we're reckoning with it, and we're reconciling it. And we're watching the cleaving and the clinging, trying to stop time, trying to maintain through the most, hideous, illicit behaviors. That dog doesn't hunt in the new. It will not go into the matriarchal, Aquarian, divine feminine, we the people era. It doesn't work. And what's awakened within all of us is the purity of that truth, the purity of who we are at our center. We are divine. And thus, big changes. It's a whole new operating system, so we need to learn to speak the language correctly, in alignment with it. So let me just conclude. I'm going to go back, astrology by Lauren, and she's talking about Uranus returns. So Uranus is retrograding back into Taurus for this final time. It won't be there again for 84 years. And she begins with a quote by Zoran Mamdani. I am young, despite my best efforts to grow older. I am Muslim. I am a democratic socialist. And most damning of all, I refuse to apologize for any of this. And see, well, let me get through this really quickly. On November 7th, Uranus returns to Taurus for some unfinished business, having entered Taurus in May of 2018. Uranus is unpredictable and can enter our lives with sudden upsets and even unexpected calamities. In Taurus, it can literally change the landscape. But even if that does happen, even if Uranus comes in and shakes up the very foundation of our lives, remember that in doing so, Uranus tears up the old rotten roots and obstacles that were standing in the way of progress. Our main theme is progress. There's more than meets the eye. It's time for new roots to take hold and have room to grow. On another note, Uranus in Taurus has something of an interesting history. The time before this one, during the 1930s and 1940s, we saw all sorts of interesting political movements brewing. Everything from the rise of fascism and Nazism on the far right to the enacting of progressive socialist programs within the framework of the New Deal. These radical political extremes arose out of the vacuum and instability left over from the Great Depression. Like an echo blowing on the winds of time, we see something similar happening this time around, as the disparity between the haves and the have-nots have people looking for answers. Channy Nicholas, people are pissed. In the 1930s, under the administration of Franklin D. Roosevelt, we saw the orchestration of a series of social programs under the New Deal. aimed at fulfilling the radical promise of making people's lives more sustainable and affordable. These radical programs aimed to serve as a safety net so that we could never have to witness the hunger, despair, and degradation of the aftermath of the Depression again. Simultaneously, in the city of New York, Fiorello H. LaGuardia took a page from Roosevelt's ambitious plan, implementing programs with the aim to promote financial equity and security for all, not just a chosen few. Roosevelt was a Democrat. However, Mayor Fiorello H. LaGuardia was a Republican. Both worked together under the same agenda. This is about that purple wave that they've been talking about, the unseen's been talking about. In today's political climate, both would be considered democratic socialists. This past week, Zoran Mondani was elected to be the next mayor of the great city of New York, and like LaGuardia, who was seen as a man of the people, capable of speaking several languages, literally and figuratively, is presenting his own ambitious agenda to restore affordability to all New Yorkers. And just as it was when LaGuardia was mayor from 1934 to 1946, Uranus is returning this week to the sign of Taurus for some unfinished business. The iconic Uranus in Taurus, Democratic Socialist mayor, makes its return. And just as Zoran Mondani is promising to do now, we were all being asked for the past 7 years to make the sorts of changes that would improve our lives economically and make the world a more sustainable place to live in. Uranus returning to Taurus for the next 5 months is our final opportunity to tie up all the final threads of that promise and set things right. Therefore, we might all ask ourselves, what changes might I be willing and able to make to improve the general welfare and sustainability of my own life, my family, my community, my country, and even Mother Earth herself? What have we not accomplished in the past 7 years that we can do now in pursuit of greater financial equity and sustainability? And what can we do in our own lives to make our lives more sustainable? Uranus will return to Taurus, where it will remain until April 25th of 2026. It will not return to Taurus again for another 84 years. So there is a promise here, and it doesn't matter. See, when we strip away all of the masks and the identities and then the labels and, male, female, gay, straight, white, black, Asian, brown, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, when all of those things are stripped away, what we're left with is the purity of right from wrong, equality, harmony versus disharmony. It should not matter who brings forward prosperity, equity, respect, civility, abundance, goodness. It shouldn't matter. Will their individual impression come with that flavor? Yes, or flavors? Yes. However, what we as souls, 8.4 billion souls on the planet of Mother Earth, what we should value most, regardless, again, gender, sexual orientation, faith, religion, socioeconomic position, what we should favor the most in life are those individuals that bring forth the greatest good, the greatest purity for all, that lift everyone up. Because that is an energy and a focus worthy of our time, our effort. It's the promise that we have all been striving for. And now is the time. Now is the time deliverance. Now is the time where we make that a reality. It's now. It's time. Looks like we made it. The sun will come out tomorrow. Be a part of that proactive next step, next iteration of humanity. And do so with joy. Look to how you will better humanity, not tear it down or destroy it or divide it, but how you will unify it. In doing so, in the new, that's knocking the ball out of the park. That's a game changer. That's a winner chicken dinner for everybody involved. Thank you all for being on this journey. We complete season 4 of Weekly Wisdom and Insights, and I will see you next week as we begin season 5 of Weekly Wisdom and Insights. Until then, be well, be kind, and be proactive and mindful, divine time, divine order, and take action when you know to do so. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Dearjames Live. Gain intuitive insight, answers, and advice to your life questions, and so much more by tuning in next week and visiting dearjames.com.